super chat there that can possibly lead into our next pick here.
Yep, this is what I was going to go for Rook. So first we got here. What is that? Is that a euro or I'm not sure.
Australian.
Australian. That's what I was thinking. Australian.
Yeah,
it's Australian for dollar.
Christopher
Burkle. What's the best RoboCop release to get? I'm ashamed that I don't own any RoboCop on any format apart from Robodoc.
Well, if you can get it there, Christopher, the Arrow 4K release from last year is the best one.
Mm-hmm. And if you don't have the 4K, just get the Arrow Blu-ray. So it works either way. But the Arrow releases, the Arrow 4K is the best. The Arrow Blu-ray, if you don't have 4K, is the second best. That's the best to get for you guys. And with that being said, thank you once again for the Australian $7.99, and that will lead into Rookie's first pick of the night. But for giving us the $7.99, I give you this.
I'd buy that for $1.
I understood that reference.
There you go. What do you got? Show it off and give us some of your thoughts.
All right. You guys really wanted me to see RoboCop, so I bought that and got it. And, I was thinking that it was going to be like, gosh, it's like, it's one of the sci-fi ones that gets blown out at the portion of hype or something. No, I actually fucking loved it.
All right.
It's one of the greatest movies ever made.
Yep.
I was shocked how much I liked it. It starts off, again, a very different tone than I was expecting, or just different way they were doing it. They're like, the Star Wars peace satellite, whatever, is up here. They had some crazy stuff with the president. And okay, whatever. Next thing, over here, talking a little bit about the news, and then you go down, you meet the cops, and it just seems like they're in hell. Apparently, the cops are just getting their asses kicked by criminals everywhere, and there's a new OCP program trying to potentially replace them, and they're just like, oh man, getting crazy with it. And the guy shows the demonstration of his robot, and it's like, oh, it's a nice little demonstration, and then just murks the dude. At that point, I was like, whoa, what? This is wow. I was not actually expecting anything like that in this film, especially right away.
Dick,
pretty quick. I was
very
like, hold on,
disappointed in you.
I was like, I am in now. And then I love how after that guy gets just mowed down, they're like, all right, well, what can we do next about our business? They just totally don't.
Somebody call a paramedic.
Call paramedics.
When that guy said that, my favorite, that reminds me of a thing in Tremors 3 where this guy gets eaten by Graboid, and this old guy, he's swallowed and goes down. This old guy's like, is he all right? It's just like, no, he's dead. He's dead. But no, I just love that they're just so cold about it. Everybody else, oh my gosh, and the business guys are like, all right, well, what can we do this could be $50 million? Oh, we're fucked with it. Just totally didn't give a shit about the guy. Just how can we make money? Yeah. There's the RoboCop thing that could prevent malfunctions like this asshole did. He's like, oh yeah, okay, shut up, boy. And was getting started. Okay, this is pretty good. They do nice setups with it as well. It's the little laser taser. What's the name? They said TJ Laser.
TJ Laser.
And subtle, it's not like a brilliant setup or anything, but I mean, I liked that's just a visual cue that cues Lewis for later. It's like, that is the person under there. Okay, shit, because everybody thinks it's a Terminator, basically. Which I gotta ask. So, what year did this come out in Terminator?
This is 5 years after Terminator.
After Terminator. Okay, because I usually hear references. Terminator's the main thing that's referenced when it comes to this sort of thing. I don't.
Or 3 years. I said 5. I'm sorry.
Right.
Terminator was 84. This is 87.
Okay, I gotcha. But now this has a lot of fun to it as well. I mean, I wasn't expecting to have that great of a time with it. Who's the guy who does the bitches leave?
Bitches leave, Kurtwood
Smith. Can you fly, Bobby?
Can you fly, Bobby? You burnt the fucking money. Just get us fucking marked.
When they showed his mugshot or something, or they showed a glimpse of him, I was like, he's the bitches leave guy. Because that's the only way I know him from when you do clips on the show.
Just give me my fucking phone call.
I'll for $1. Just it's such a dumb line, but I did.
Clarence Bardaker, one of the greatest screen villains of all time.
One of the greatest villains.
I work for Dick Jones. Dick Jones owns OCP runs the cops.
What my fucking lawyer.
Yes, yeah, dude. He's great as the little villain in there. He seems very silly, and a lot of the his goons remind me of like amped up Back to the Future lackeys or something.
They're diverse as hell too. Nobody ever noticed or brings that up usually.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It just made me think of the like laughing guy like Back to the Future. They're just laughing. He's taking a piss. She's like, put your hands up. Zip first, and then she looks down. Boom! Oh, stupid cop, late, stupid woman, silly woman.
No. Cops don't like me much, but I don't like cops.
It's just like a lot of the dialogue is what I would call not very good, but I don't know, the way it's executed.
It's comic book dialogue.
It is hilarious.
This is more of a comic book movie than a comic book movie we've gotten in the last 10, 15 years, dude.
It kind of feels like that. I mean, he gets shot like how many fucking times as well? Yeah. That actually reminds me of the Punisher movie of the one, the John Travolta one. I keep on forgetting what year that is. 2005.
Yeah, I think it's around that time.
Something like that. Reminds me that he gets shot to hell in that movie, but now he lives. And this one, he's loud out, hand blown off, arm blown off, basically, and he's just like still kicking, gets shot in the head. And I'm assuming that he's like sort of not like he's like more brought back to life. I assume by the equipment and machines and stuff. But I assume it's supposed to be
basically all that's left of him
hanging on to his
brain
memory of his family, hanging on there. Yeah, it was good. I mean, even by the end, they have snipers that blow people up. That's just like a rocket launcher, practically. Snipers. They look like they're right out of Halo. I don't know if Halo got influence on their design from this at all. But I made it immediately thought of Halo with the way the snipers.
Did you see where RoboCop shot that guy in the dick?
Yeah, I thought that was another like
best ever.
Who thought of this? Yes. Who thought of this sequence of like, they're just trying to get him, and then he's like, okay, scan.
Because in the original script, he just shoots past her head, and he shoots part of her hair.
That's very generic.
So this was like Paul's like, wait a minute, what if he shoots him in the dick?
Like I like how they like since this came out in the 80s and like I've seen a bunch of things since then at least and it's doing a trope, but it did it different than what I see a lot of the current they usually just are able to shoot the guy in a lot of in that same scenario. Nope, shoot through the skirt to the balls. It's just like, oh shit, okay, he didn't even try to kill the guy, just incapacitate him as best he could. The dude's like, okay, I'm going. All right, sure. Yeah,
I mean, that's a good movie.
The effects
What's funny
on it
is
too,
one of those punks
really
is actually in Police Academy and Ghoulies.
They look familiar. One of them looks familiar.
It's I'm trying to think of his name offhand, but shit.
There's like 7 of the movies. I don't remember all the characters, but some of them look familiar.
They call him Ratface in the first Police Academy movie too, and I can't even remember his name now. I'm just drawing a complete blank. I'll remember it in a minute.
Right. And
he's the one that says, I bet you there's more hair down there.
Yeah. Todd, you're going to have to give him that extra clip of RoboCop shooting, the extended scene.
Oh, God. Yeah, the extended scene, yes.
Well,
RoboCop don't like dicks.
Yeah, I guess not. But what was funny too is like that guy, one of the main minions, I guess, that he spared at first, and then I don't remember the name. The guy that like the shotgun most of the time, I guess. At the end, he gets, was it acid or something? What was in the truck that like melted the guy?
That's nuclear waste.
Yeah.
Okay.
Scott Thompson is who I was talking about. Yeah, he played Copeland in the Police Academy films.
Okay. Yeah. Like I was expecting.
Yeah, the toxic waste scene is one of the highest tested scenes in this whole film, and they wanted the MPAA was like, you got to get rid of that, and they're like, fuck you.
I'm glad they kept it in because the way that looked was very like a graphic. It was just like he just melted. I thought he was just going to be dead and that's it, but it's like no, help me, no, dude,
what me, man. Touch me, man.
Yeah, don't touch me, man.
Like, oh my god, and I don't know. This was pretty good. I mean, it wasn't like I'm giving it a lot of praise. It's not like amazing for me, but I did really enjoy it. Like this was a fun one that does make me want to see the next ones in their series. I didn't think I'd be interested in seeing the rest of the RoboCop films, but I kind of want to check them
You'll
out.
probably dig part 2. I think you'll dig
Yeah.
part 2.
I think you'll, Part 3 is universally not liked.
Say no to
Let's just say
drugs.
I got you. Yeah, I mean, it's like simple stuff. Like, it just goes down the stairs and the thing can't go down the stairs, and it's like flailing around.
209.
Yeah, it's just flailing around like a baby. And I was like, that's kind of just a simple, funny flaw for the thing. It's not like you didn't have to do anything super inventive to beat it. He fleed down some stairs and then it couldn't follow, so it was screwed. And then when he comes back to fight, there's not a huge showdown. He just takes the sniper rocket launcher thing and blows it up. Just like, okay, good. Yeah, you didn't. Yeah. Usually they try to do the huge battle sequence, and nope. When the guy fires them, he's like, "Thank you. I could kill this guy. Like, I can't do anything to this guy until he doesn't work for you." So nice. So
serve the public trust.
Protect
the innocent, and uphold the law.
Yeah, I mean, I like too how it's like kind of tragic. Where I assumed it was going to be that he reunites with his family, but I'm glad that they didn't do that.
Yeah.
That's what I was expecting. Was he is able to find his son and his wife, and she has to, oh no, or she's moved on, and he's got to go, oh no. I'm glad they didn't do like the tropes that I'm kind of used to seeing with that. I was kind of expecting certain tropes to be laid out, and they don't do them. And this is in the 80s, so I'm kind of like, what? I don't know if at the time this kind of stuff was tropes at the time, but it definitely has been since then in a lot of films.
Well, a lot of the tropes we have today come from 80s movies. They weren't tropes back in the day.
Please put down your weapon. You have 20 seconds to comply.
But yeah,
you have 15 seconds.
It's a very deep movie.
9, 8.
Hey man, get it! Stop! Hey,
6,
hey, help save me!
5, 4.
And then just keep
you now
pushing that
have
guy
no
away.
more seconds left.
Yeah, I give it praise. I was expecting to be disappointed, and I ended up being happy with it. And even the way that I mean, it's tragic in a way with it too. It's just like he's trying to discover what was left. He said he can feel them, but he doesn't remember them. I imagine that's similar to how people that actually lose their memories might be in some way. Like they're aware of something, but they can't really visualize it. So they have a feeling there, but it's not like coming together in a full picture for them. So and I thought it would be another thing where he gets his like full memory back too. And I'm glad they didn't, because I'm like, I like it being a little more I like there being hints of hope, but keeping some of the tragedy, because that's a little, as sci-fi as it is, that's kind of what keeps it a little bit more real. It's like aspects like that where it's not all going to be a Disney ending for you at the end. It's still
it's got a good. I like how Sean's calling you Runner. Did Runner watch Robo? Yes, that's what we're talking about. RoboCop.
Yes,
but no, it's actually got a lot of Christian Jesus allegory to the movie as well too, because Verhoeven was very Catholic, wasn't he? Did they talk about that in the RoboDoc? I haven't got to the RoboDoc.
Oh hell yeah!
Yeah, they talk about it. Yeah.
I mean, they go over it all over again. Like you have the crucifixion scene, the resurrection, him walking on water at the end. I mean, I even go as farther, because I don't know if they've even brought it up yet, but there's pretty clear parallels to Lewis and Mary, right? Because she nurses him back to health and all that business. And it's all there. I mean, and I mean, there's the devil in Dick Jones. Clarence Boddicker is his minion. I mean, there's a lot of allegory in it. I mean, his soul reawakening in the body. That's kind of what it's all about. Is, like you said, Rook. He starts out as a machine again. He's brought back to life by all this equipment, and he just follows his commands. And as he started to be reminded of who he was, he can't really remember. But what he does have is the dreams. And like he says at the end, that great line, he goes, "I can't remember them, but I feel them."
Yeah.
And that's that's his soul waking up inside going, okay, I know I'm missing something here, but he can't quite remember his old life. So there's kind of that separation there too. And yeah, I agree with you on all the points. Like, it's a perfect fucking movie from head to toe. Even the remake isn't as bad as it could have been. And it actually flips some of those things. In fact, it does get more involved with the wife and all that kind of business. In fact, he was supposed to see his wife and kid in this movie, and they cut all that out before they even shot it. It kind of got all amalgamized into the scene where he just goes to the house and just walks through, and has the memories, and that I think is even better than what they had planned initially. Because initially, he goes home and his wife and his kid don't even recognize him. So then he goes to the cemetery and he goes to his own grave, and that's when it finally dawns on him.
Right. I mean, I feel like that would change the pace and tone of the movie a bit if that kind of a scene was in there. I kind of like it being cut out, and it's just him piecing it together, sort of. And he has, even the reflexes and memory, like, shooting the gun, and he could just put it away, but he still does the TJ Laser thing that's instinctually kind of with him. So I kind of like little bits, like bits of humanity is still there. As much as they're trying to make him an obedient machine, there's still enough humanity there to differentiate it from a machine. And that's surprising for me. I don't know. I liked it. And I mean, the fact that they're trying to build, the whole point is that they're calling it Old Detroit because they're trying to build a new city, right? That's the whole.
It's supposed to take place like
Old City.
Yeah. So I mean, I like that there, and how like the old city is like has all the. I don't know.
This movie takes place in 1991.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
made in 87.
I was about to ask you guys. I don't know if there's a parallel they're drawing with the city and the old Detroit and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like what I don't know exactly what they're drawing.
Well, at this time you had Reaganomics crumbling. You had Detroit falling under its own weight. It was falling apart. It used to be the heart of America with Ford and all that kind of stuff. Being big deal, and just in general, it was just crumbling, and crime was at a high rate, and you had the privatization of prisons and private security firms coming into the fold. And that's kind of where OCP comes in, because that was just they're like a stand-in for all these companies that were buying up all these prisons and starting all these private security firms and all that shit, and buying in. They're basically built on military contracts and all that kind of stuff. And literally, you've got the cutthroat world of business being portrayed where, like you said earlier, these guys are literally getting killed in the boardroom, and they just move on with their day with business like nothing happened. Because at that point it was so cutthroat. Like these guys would literally just be like, your job could be, your career could be over by the end of the day in certain cases. And so that's kind of and what they were portraying here, even just doing it literally. The whole movie is a satire, right? Mm-hmm. The whole movie is like a poke of this is where we're headed right now, and it was way far ahead of the game on certain things. And of course, I mean, we could probably make somebody into a RoboCop now, but thank God we've gotten, we haven't gone that far yet. But I mean, we've surpassed many of the other things that are in this film. Like hell, even your phone has more memory on it than RoboCop does.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Does it actually say the amount of RAM and hard drive space that he has in the movie? And it's so fucking quaint in comparison to what we deal with now. Like you could make a RoboCop that would be amazing in comparison. But like that's one thing I do like about the remake is that they do take some of the elements that have advanced. It's not so much a satire. It is more of a straightforward story. It does ask the questions about, is a person or are they a piece of property? A little bit more, because I mean they do ask that question.
Well, now I actually don't want to hear more about the reboot. I'm intrigued enough to check it out too.
You might want to check it out because it's a much different film. Just don't go into it expecting it to be the same kind of satire.
It's more of a. Usually, I don't expect the reboots to try to be the same satire anyway. Really.
And there was one of them that actually kind of took some of the questions that the first film didn't ask and actually asks them. So, like, but you're right. Like at that time,
me to see it. So I'm
the way the first original movie and the second film picks up, I think 6 months after the first movie, and the second film sticks with a lot of the same tone of the first movie. So you might enjoy it. There's some elements that some people didn't enjoy. It does go a little bit more in the darker side of things because the basis of the story for the second film is OCP's trying to build a new RoboCop, literally calling it RoboCop 2.
Right. One of the things I appreciate too is because again I haven't experienced this and I don't know exactly what it is, but I mean the police force there, the chief, I don't know, was he the chief or who was the main guy in charge?
The old man? He's just the head of OCP.
The black guy. I don't know.
He's talking about police guy, the chief of the police, the black guy.
He seemed to be
the head of the police.
Yeah. Seemed to be in charge. I couldn't tell, but he seemed like
OCP owns them, so they work for OCP. See, that's why they're on strike, and that was actually something that happened in New York. The police went on strike.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's why I was trying to see if they were trying to relate that to a specific event or not.
What's funny is you can bring it up now with a lot of the BLM stuff and the defund the police thing. That'd be interesting if they actually got a new RoboCop out, if they were to work some of that into the police striking again for the first time in 30 years because of all that business.
Well,
and that would bring RoboCop out of the basement.
Right. Well, that's interesting because I was born shortly after that time period. I never heard of police going on strike before. So I didn't know that was
It's a rare thing. It's only happened really 2 or 3 times in American history, and that's kind of why it's a big deal in the movie. The reason they're doing it in the movie is because they've been taken over by this corporate entity and they're not getting paid like they used to, and they're being overworked. Crime's so bad, they're dying by the dozen daily, all that kind of stuff. In New York can't remember what year it was. I think it was 76 or 78. They had a strike, and that's kind of what influenced some of this. I can't remember exactly then what it was all about, but I think it had to do with pay and something else, and the way that the similar kind of things with crime and other things at that time. But otherwise, you got to go way back to the early 1900s or 19 teens to actually find a police strike.
Right.
Yeah, it was very rare. 71. Thank you, Cryam. Sorry, it was a little earlier than I thought.
Okay. But I love the tone that they have with the police station anyway, how dire it feels. I thought it was almost a scene ripped out of Starship Troopers, where it's but with less fun.
Same
they're just getting annihilated.
Same director, by the way.
Same director
of what?
Starship Troopers. Same director.
Oh, really? Oh, shit. Okay, well, good.
Yeah.
They're kind of supposed to be in the same universe-ish. That's why they have all the news breaks and stuff in.
That might, because this felt like Starship Trooper-y, but I couldn't really pin it as to why. But I was I wanted to reference Starship Troopers as I'm watching it, but there's different feels to it.
No, there's a clear tie.
The cops are trying to be bros, but they're also kind of fuck all this. What? We're getting our asses handed to us. Why should we be fighting this? What is going on here? And I was just kind of well, there's just a bunch of criminals walking around, but then it's okay. It's a new city. So this is kind of being swept under, right? Kind of this section. Were they going to build the city over this city or just in a different,
basically
with Detroit? I wasn't sure.
They already had kind of started. That's where OCP is. That's where the nicer part of town is. You see, that's New Detroit thus far.
Okay.
And as you get into the sequels, what you'll learn is old Detroit is still standing, but they're trying to evacuate it or move everybody around so they can demolish it and build over top of it. So yeah, that's the plan, right? Is to build Delta City over top of what was Detroit. And basically it's this conglomerate buying up an entire city is what it is, basically, yeah.
I got you. I'm imagining that the sentiment is that that's not a great thing to just build the new city over the old. I'm assuming that it's don't destroy the old here. Come on, you need to.
Well, no, because they're trying to get rid of the other element. See, that's the thing, and that's where, part 3 actually being as bad as it is really dives into more of that stuff because you start to see what OCP is really up to. But
based on how you describe it, where that's the rich part of town, and then the other part isn't. It seems the more they're building the new city, the more the criminal element is being shoved into the other parts of town. Is that why there's such a high amount of criminal activity or something?
Well, it's corruption, and that's just kind of emulating the corruption that was in the 80s in New York and Chicago in the 70s and stuff like that. Breeds criminals, where the line in the movie they keep saying is good business is where you find it.
Yep.
Right.
There's a ton of little lines in the movie that really kind of and the whole thing was also commenting on how Americans were we overspent ourselves in the 80s, and that's what led into the crisis of the 90s. Because America was living on credit in the 80s. Credit we didn't really have. And not just America itself, but the average American.
And the way I assume the way the media portrays it too, they're an upstanding citizen or something for the news thing. And they're yeah, well, we're paying taxes or something. And when they're talking about the police strike and they're doing their jobs, and then they show another guy, they're unemployed person. And he's I don't know, man, it's kind of crazy or something. I don't,
like I said, you can draw a lot of parallels now to our modern country right now with the way things are going. That's why I said a RoboCop right now would work really well. Especially if you dust him off like he's been in cryo freeze or something for the last 30 years.
Yeah, be kind of we need a little old fashioned. We need something a little.
Well, we were at one point in time going to get a little old-fashioned, but as we've talked before, what happened with the director? He was screwed out of both an Aliens and a RoboCop movie.
Amazon is trying to make another RoboCop now. We'll see what happens.
Oh boy!
With the success of the game and stuff, I'm sure they'll try at least.
I don't know if current people. That's what I would worry about. Like, do they even understand what the point of the first ones were? Do they really get it? And if they were going to remake it, how do they retool it to a modern way that doesn't disrespect what it is? Like that, because otherwise, what is the point if you're trying to revive it? I like the way you guys even describe it, like, you know, bringing the old one.
Well, you were laughing right away when that guy got blown away in the boardroom, right?
A little. I was just more shocked.
So you got it.
I was more shocked with their reaction to it.
The whole movie is a satire, right? It's not meant to be I mean, it's serious, but it's not. It's like a tongue-in-cheek kind of like, this is where we're fucking headed, folks. Like the 6,000 SUX, right? It sucks. SUX sucks. You got Nukem, the game Nukem, right? Like that.
Yeah, I like the little commercial. I forgot to mention that. That was a funny little ad.
Breached my borders. Like, Pakistan is threatening to take away my aid.
No more reinforcements for you, Jimmy or whatever, buddy. And then blows them up.
Nukem.
Family game. I like little creative things like that in there too. That makes it feel like whatever time it is as well. Like what commercials they would have.
Absolutely. Like totally feeds into it
as well. It made me feel that 80s without actually living through the 80s. A film like this. Yeah, this one is one I'd say encapsulates it pretty good, even though.
Well, Cryam, I just wanted to address that. He says it feels too relevant to modern day. You know what? It did then too. Right? You got to understand, like, I mean, maybe if you're old enough, you know what I mean. But that was the thing, is that movie was commenting on the Reagan 80s, man.
Mm-hmm.
and the military complex and all that business. Like, there's so much into that. Like, now you could use that too again. Like, and I think you guys are right. Greg said it. I think Greg or Rook just said it. We need Robo to get us right about now. We need somebody like that. We need a Dirty Harry type.
We need a little old fashioned. We need a little. That's
what we talked about.
Yeah, it was you that said it, Jeff. Yeah.
I think that's also what we said when you brought on the Dirty Harry movies. Tom, is like, we need a Dirty Harry, Punisher, RoboCop type hero nowadays. It's all like, toxic masculinity, all this, all that. It's like, we just need somebody to be like, you know what? I'm tired of this shit, and I'm just gonna do it my way. That's what we need. We need somebody like that in movies and entertainment now.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing too where you see all it takes is a few to stand up for it, and then more people will be more willing to as well, or to be behind something. And I don't know. I call me a RoboCop fan, man. I'm
glad to hear it.
Yeah,
I was shocked to beyond belief. I really enjoyed it. So
I think you might have redeemed yourself a little bit.
Yeah,
but I'm interested in the sequel.
Yeah. I want to hear your thoughts on the sequel, because
behave yourselves.
The sequel to RoboCop 2 is very much like the sequel to Batman, with Batman Returns. A lot of people didn't like.
That's a good comparison, actually. I like that.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't like Batman Returns. A lot of people didn't like RoboCop 2 at first. It wasn't like they didn't like it. I don't think they got it, and it went a lot darker in the sequels than they anticipated. But I always liked them. So
that was also a comparison I wanted. RoboCop kind of felt like a daytime Batman in a way, like one that they choose to publicize instead of be in the shadows. Like, he's like one that you bring into the light, sort of, and let's have it with kids, and
well, it's actually got heavy inspiration from Judge Dredd, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
That's where
I haven't seen Judge Dredd either. Any of those Judge? I know there's
the
two versions, right, of Judge Dredd.
Yeah, there's the Dredd, and then there was the one with Sylvester Stallone from the 90s. But Ed Neumeyer, the guy who wrote it, he got inspiration from. He was working at Warner Brothers, and he was a script reader and stuff like that. And he got shoved a bunch of comic books one day to read, and he was noticing all the similarities between all these comic books. So between that and the heavy influence of Judge Dredd, he came up with the concept of RoboCop after visiting the set of Blade Runner, because he was at Warner Brothers at the time they were shooting Blade Runner, and he saw like the cop car, and all the futuristic stuff, and he's like, "Oh man, that's amazing!" And he was speaking to one of the people on the set, and they're like, "What's this all about?" And he's like, "Well, it's about a robot." a guy who tracks down robots. He's like, no way. And they're like, yeah. He goes, one of the robots is right over there. And he's like looking around for a robot. And then he finally realized the guy was pointing at Sean Young. He's like, that's not a fucking robot.
She's in Blade Runner.
How do you know? How do you know, huh?
Well, he's like, that's the thing. He goes, in all these movies all the time, even Terminator up to that point, he's like, you still got, a person running around pretending to be a robot. He's like, I just wanted to see an actual fucking robot.
Give him the metal and everything on the outside.
Yeah. So you got two of them between Ed 209, which is obviously named after him, Ed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ed Newmeyer. And then RoboCop, of course, which is kind of the cyborg, but he's gold or silver plated and all this get up and stuff like that. But yeah, we were talking about the casting. There was tons of people who they wanted. They looked at Keith Carradine. They looked at. They really, really wanted Michael Ironside. That was who they wanted to play him.
Yeah.
But the Rob Bottin, the special effects guy, said, "Look, the problem with guys like that is they're too built, and you're going to want me to build this stuff around them." It basically would have been like the equivalent of what they did to Schwarzenegger and Batman and Robin, and somebody should have said something to him then, right? Because you got a problem here. Is you put a big guy with all this bulky shit on it, they're going to look like a fucking Hulk.
Yeah, they're going to look way bigger.
Yeah, so they're like, you need a thin, slender guy, and not only that, cast the chin, is what they kept telling him. Cast the chin. So they said every time they were looking at somebody, they would really pay attention to their chin line. And Peter Weller come in, and not only did he have the chin line, and he was thin railed, but he also just had this way about him, and you can tell just when he's interviewed that he's very out there, man.
Yeah,
he's
Buckaroo Banzai.
He is a freakazoid, and I'll tell you, there's some great fucking stories about him in that RoboDoc, and one of the ones that's making the rounds right now is the Oreo story.
Yeah.
The Oreo story is great, even though Peter Weller says it never happened. I don't believe it. Because this guy, he was totally into this shit. He would not answer to any name but Robo. And that's why Kurtwood Smith and stuff like that wouldn't talk to him, because he's like, fuck that, I ain't doing that.
I ain't calling that guy Robo.
I'll call him Peter, but I ain't calling him fucking Robo. Fucking whatever. This is ridiculous. But no, and so one of the PA guys was there one day, and he had a roll of Oreos that were for Peter. But Peter was refusing to do the scene until he got Oreo. And he goes, no Oreos. He goes, so he got pissed off, and he goes over, because this is at the scene where he's shooting at all the bad guys from above in the steel part, in the steel works, and he goes, Robo wants an Oreo.
Oh boy.
And the PA comes over to the edge and he goes, Robo, don't get an Oreo, and shoved them all in his fucking mouth.
That's great.
And did I tell you the fuck me story last week? I think I did.
I don't remember.
I think okay. Well, that one is every day on the set, because Paul Verhoeven, being foreign, his English wasn't quite good yet, and he had a hard time expressing himself. So every time somebody would get something wrong or do something wrong, or effect would go wrong, something would go wrong, he'd be like, you're fucking me, the studio's fucking me, you're fucking me, you're fucking me, every day you're fucking me. This whole thing is just, you're fucking me, you're fucking my movie, you're fucking me. So one day, the special effects guy got so pissed off, he was having a rough morning. So he goes up to Paul, who had already been yelling at people and stuff, because this is what he did all day long. He was supposedly a tyrant to deal with. And he goes up to him and he goes, Paul, I just wanted to let you know, today I'm going to fuck you. I'm going to fuck you hard. He goes, when I'm done fucking you, I'm going to fuck you again later. And Paul just stood there for a moment and he goes, at least this man has the decency to tell me he's going to fuck me. And he walks away.
And now I get the South Park references where he says this. Okay, there we go. Now that makes sense.
Paul Verhoeven is a fucking nut.
Yeah,
he is a fucking nut. So you got Paul Verhoeven. Oh, they also wanted Rutger Hauer was another possibility to play RoboCop, but Verhoeven nixed that right away because they already had clashed on his last movie they worked together on.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, and then Clarence Bardaker was another weird one because Kurtwood Smith actually went in for Dick Jones. Because that's the kind of role Kurtwood Smith normally played. Was like a crooked executive or cop, or he never really played the bad guy too often. But Dick Jones, he kind of played heavies, not usually the main bad guy. But he thought he was going in for Dick Jones. Well, it turns out Ronnie Cox, who I don't know if they were trying to get him for the old man, but he said no, I want to play Dick Jones. And he goes, because they didn't really want him for Dick Jones, because that was totally against what Ronnie Cox had done to that point. Because everybody knew him as the goody two shoes guy from Deliverance and being like the chief in Beverly Hills Cop, shit like that.
Yeah.
Right. They always saw him as the good guy next door.
President
kind of
and Captain America.
The gee golly shucks. Yeah. That kind of shit. Like they always seen him as that thing. So he was really wanting to play this role because he's like, I could really sink my teeth into something like that. Not only that, show people I can do more than just being the good guy. So they took a chance on him. And so in that, then what they did is they made Kurtwood, they made him Clarence. And that's where, so he's like, all right. So he learned who Clarence was, and Ed based him on a real guy. This is where I always thought it was an odd pick, like the way Clarence is portrayed. But I guess he's actually based on a real guy. And that's where the glasses come from. That's where the nerdy look comes from. The half balding and just, just the sadistic, brilliant guy who probably could have been an amazing scientist, or just like Dick Jones, worked somewhere like that. But because he's a criminal, he just never, and you can see that in the character, right? Like he wants to be a part of that club, but he starts to realize as he goes through the movie, that's never going to happen. Like, especially with that scene with Dick Jones when they, when they're talking to each other and he's like, look at my face, Dick, all that kind of shit. Like, you can kind of tell, like, that's what he wants, but he's never going to get it. So, like, he really sunk his teeth into that one. Well, then the guy who was meant to play Kurtwood's part, the Clarence, actually is his right-hand man, the guy who says, don't touch me, man, when the other guy's the good-looking dude. Yeah. So he was originally supposed to play Clarence. So then he got pushed down to the next character down the line. But then the rest of them, they said, Paul said, I don't care. I just want them all to be diverse. He goes, I want, a diverse group of guys. So you got like the Indian looking kind of Asian dude or whatever he is. I can't remember what his background is. I apologize. You got the black guy, obviously. And then of course you got the ginger, and stuff like that. And then you got Clarence and his right-hand man. So nice little group of guys there. And they're kind of like the head of all the bad guys. And, that run Detroit. And they all run under the protection of Dick Jones. So that's how this shit works. Like the corruption runs that deep all the way to the top.
Yep. Is that deep. Yep. But I just don't think Michael Ironside would have worked. I
think
mean,
he's too.
He's got too much of a presence to him. Maybe
he plays better villains too. He's never really great as a good guy. He's okay, but I like him better as a villain.
I think maybe he take himself too seriously. Like you talked about how Peter Weller's a little more out there. So maybe took a little more out there of a guy to play RoboCop as the way he was played. I think maybe Michael Ironside would have just played it too serious. Just too serious.
No, Weller really got into the whole like, I'm this guy trapped inside and I'm Robo, he like really got into the head of the whole thing, and what it is. I think Michael Ironside would have just come in and did the job.
Yeah, he was just like, got on suit, got it in there, did it like Stokes, serious type, not like overthink it or anything. And just
was the actor who did
worked.
Was the actor in this one in much things at that time, or kind of a fresher actor?
Who, Peter Weller?
Oh, Peter Weller. He had done Buckaroo Banzai and a couple other things.
Yeah.
And he quit acting. I mean, he does it from time to time, but now he's a teacher.
He's a TV director too.
Yeah, he does all kinds of other shit now.
Yeah.
He's not young either.
Yeah, he's not young. I know he directed a lot of that TV show Longmire. He did a lot of that, and he was actually on that show too. So, but yes, as we move on to me now, I guess any final words you want to say?
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, man, I loved it. Call me a RoboCop fan. I will check out RoboCop 2 and let you guys know what I think about that. Don't know when I'll do that though. But yeah, a happy discovery with this one.
Nice.
Chalk it up. It's one of my favorite 80 films now, man.
Kids love this one.
Yeah.
Yes. I'd buy that for $1. Like,
I'd buy that for $1.
I was fucking 7 when I saw that movie. I couldn't believe my parents let me watch RoboCop.
Dude, I was like that old too. I was like 8 maybe.
I wish more films had like fun commercials in there. I'd buy that for $1. Like, why is that in here? But it's
you should
kind of
see
funny.
the deleted commercial, Rook.
It's a random funny thing.
That's actually those little bits with the, I'd buy that for $1 is actually a sitcom.
That's a real sitcom, or not?
It's not a real one, but it's one in their universe. And there's actually a deleted scene where he goes to a pizza restaurant where the chefs are all a bunch of topless ladies. He's like, I'd buy that for $1.
It's funny. See, I like that creativity. The only other time
it's on YouTube. You can find it.
The only other time I've seen something like that, where it's just like it's a thing in a movie that isn't real, but it's in that universe, like in Home Alone, get on your knees and tell me you love me, like that movie or whatever that he plays in the movie. It's like that's invented for Home Alone, right?
Snake. I don't know any snakes.
Yeah, snakes.
Yeah, I like that element, that detail that they add to it. Like in that world, this is a movie, but it's like, why do they go that far? But I like it that they do that. I don't know.
There's really not much for deleted scenes though. That little bit is one of the only deleted scenes. The only other deleted scene is the ending. There's more to the ending that they cut off.
I like how this one ended out.
Yeah, well, that's because that's the way it's scored. They're like, well, fuck that.
Yeah, what they could have done. If it went longer, the pace might not have been.
They could have threw it in the credits because all it is it's the final news break. Because if you notice, all the news breaks come in at the act breaks.
Oh, right.
And so there was one more news break that was supposed to come in at the end. And that's probably where the other bit from I buy that for $1 was supposed to come in or something like that too. But the funny thing is when you talk about assembly cuts of movies, they usually like 3-4 hours long, and then they cut them down to what we end up seeing. RoboCop, the original assembly cut, was under 2 hours. And that was because Ed Neumeyer was on the set through the making of the film, and he was editing the film as they were going along. So they wouldn't film scenes they didn't need. So like the only stuff that got excised was like the little ancillary thing, like I just said, and just little bits and pieces on the end of scenes and stuff here and there. And the final bit that got cut out, and that was Anne Lewis in the hospital, so you could make sure that everybody saw that she lived and she didn't become a RoboCop herself. Because that was the other thing that everybody was afraid of, was that they were like, we got to show the ending because otherwise everybody's going to think she's going to become a RoboCop too because of that line.
yeah. Don't worry,
I like
you.
I'd rather. I like
everything.
it not show. I like it not showing that exactly.
They could have shown it during the credits, like after like the first bit. They could have just had it come into the side or whatever. It would have been nice just to have it there.
I guess so, but I feel like this is one of the ones that knows when to end itself. Where it's like, you know what, this is a good enough ending. If there's more movies.
Oh no, that's the Rocky ending. That's definitely the Rocky ending. And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, Rocky didn't end that way either. Sly's just like, wait, freeze it right there. That's the ending. Because after that, it doesn't end. In the original ending, it keeps going, and then him and Adrian walk out alone. That's the ending.
Right.
They're talking about her hat.
I know that we feel a little different on some endings, like with the Return of the King or something. I was okay with the majority of their last bits of endings, but there's maybe one or two that I probably would have shortened down at least or something. But it ended when a film chooses to end, I feel is always a tough choice in a way, because it's like, where do you want it to be? That's done. We're done. This movie.
Not a lot of movies get those moments either. So I agree with you. That's the spot to end the film proper. Exactly, yeah. Murphy.
But I do. That's what I like, is because the end with you wanting to know more about what happens, but there isn't an answer. I kind of prefer that in a way. It's like, because it keeps you thinking about it in a way.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's my last thoughts on there.
All right.